Mike, set, 6, 7, Christy, Egan.
We are going to start off by welcoming our high school students, Lucy, who is our junior rep, and Morgan, who is our senior rep. Okay.
Good evening, Board of Education members, Dr. Valenti, and our school community. My name is Lucy Mortensen. I'm in 11th grade at Eastchester High School, and this is my first meeting as a junior student representative. Two things you should know about me are, first, I love Eastchester schools, and secondly, I'm involved in sports, performing arts, and various clubs, so I can give a full perspective of EHS. I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve in this capacity and to be with you tonight. Here are a few announcements. This coming week will be busy for our music department. On Wednesday, December 7th, is the concert for all instruments in the band and orchestra. And on Thursday, December 8th, at 7 p.m. is the choral concert. We invite all members of the community to come and enjoy our exceptional performers. I can speak firsthand to the amount of time and effort the music department puts into having professional, engaging, and well-produced concerts. Come kick off your holiday season with music next week. Also regarding the performing arts, we would like to report how well the Players Club fall comedy Midsummer Jersey went last weekend. It was fun, funny, and fantastic. Thank you to all who came to the show. Next week, we wanted to make you aware that the Math Honor Society induction ceremony will be on Tuesday, December 6th at 7 p.m. These exceptional math students have maintained a 90% or higher in math classes since the beginning of high school and have been tutoring their fellow students for a year. Congrats to all the inductees. Thank you again for your time, and now Morgan will finish.
Thank you, Lucy.
Okay, camera phone 3. Mic 3.
The senior fashion show was a great success. 175 seniors walked the catwalk, wearing clothing from our local stores and boutiques. A fun time was had by all. The funds raised by this event covers all the PTA's expenses for the year. We'd like to thank all the volunteers and to the local businesses that donated raffle prizes. EGO is holding a toy drive right in time for the holidays. Bring an unopened, unwrapped toy to help a child in need. Stuffed animals aren't allowed. Toys must be donated by December 2nd, and all toys will be donated to the Neverham Community Center. Some teachers are even offering extra credit when you support the drive. Eastchester Strength participated in a lift-giving event, raising money for the Special Olympics. They were able to raise $1,700 for their cause. The varsity baseball team is holding the second annual Baseball Classic at Mickey Spillane's to fundraise for their varsity spring trip to Myrtle Beach. Tickets are $75. There will be raffles and silent auctions for various things, including golf outings, sport tickets, and signed baseballs. Model Congress is attending the Yale Model Congress Conference. This is the club's first time going in person in 3 years. Students are very excited for this opportunity. The varsity cheer team is holding a cheer clinic. On Saturday, December 10th in the middle school gym, 4th and 6th graders have their clinic from 9:30 to 11:30, and pre-K to 3rd grade have their clinic from 1 to 3, and their showcase follows. On December 2nd, the Art Club is holding a Bob Ross painting night. During the event, a Bob Ross painting video will be played, and painters can follow along. Free food and drinks will be provided. Have a great night.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lucy and Morgan. Okay, now it is time for, does anyone have any board committee reports or anything that you want to tell us about now? Christine, thank you.
Christine, 4, 5.
So this Saturday at Amherst is the Whoville Pajama Party. It's supposed to be good fun for the kids.
6. I'm sorry. Running up on 6.
Then they will, okay, to watch, they'll watch How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And then separately, I'd like to give a big thank you to the Greenvale and Ann Hutchinson Girls on the Run coaches. I do apologize, I don't know who the Girls on the Run coaches were for Greenvale, but from Ann Hutz, it was Coach Jill, Katrina, Amy, Wendy, and Taryn. I know that the girls did a fabulous job in preparing for their race last weekend at Rockland Lake for 3 miles. And just before the race, the girls had a bake sale where they raised $310, and they split the proceeds between the Blythedale Children's Hospital and the Yonkers Animal Shelter. I know my daughter was a runner, and it was a great program that built more valuable lessons, more than just running. It was an emotional, social, confidence builder. So I'd like to thank the Greenvale and Ann Hutch girls on the run coaches, and as well as I think the boys had a program called Let Me Run. So thank you for that extracurricular activity that was available to them.
Okay, 5. Good.
The Waverly
5.
PTA
5.
hosting a magical morning at Waverly
5.
on
Volume up on 5. Volume up on 5. We'll get back on 6.
The Waverly PTA are hosting a magical morning at Waverly on Saturday, December 10th from 8:30 to 10 or 10:30 to 12. There are many activities for the kids, such as cookies with Santa, building a stuffed animal, play snowball areas, hot cocoa. Tickets are selling fast, and they're on sale through December 2nd. I'd also like to say I actually had the honor of being Lucy's first grade teacher at Waverly, and I just want to say how proud I am of her. This was her first time, so she did such an amazing job.
Get there ready for 8.
So we had our Greenvale Coffee and Conversation, which was very well attended. And some questions came up regarding the process and background of why there is the possibility of reorganizing Greenvale and Ann Hutch. So I just wanted to provide some information about that. In August, when the board had our retreat, we identified 3 main areas to focus on this year: improving security, guidance, and improving curriculum and academic outcomes. Dr. Valenti and his team have made and continue to make improvements to our literacy and math curriculum. They also explored some other areas, such as universal pre-K, so that all 4-year-olds in Eastchester would have the opportunity to be equally prepared for kindergarten. Unfortunately, UPK has been tabled for now, because we simply don't have the room in our schools, and we couldn't find an off-campus location at this time. Another idea that Dr. Valenti and his team are exploring is the reorganization of Ann Hutch and Greenvale, and this is something that many districts have done in order to improve student outcomes, and Dr. Valenti has experience and success with this model. To be clear, the board is a policymaker by law. We are parents and community members. We are professionals in other areas, and some of us have backgrounds in education, but we are not the experts in education. We defer to leadership, and we look for the administrators to explore different ways to work towards the goals of improving academic outcomes. Dr. Valenti and his team of assistant superintendents, Dr. Stoll and Scott Wynn, and principals at Greenvale, Ms. Napolitano, and at Ann Hutch, Dr. Keene, they are the experts, and they are presenting their ideas and information to the board as well as to the community. Dr. Valenti has lots of tools in his toolbox and has expertise in multiple tools, and this is just one of them that he is presenting to us. And the board will be listening tonight, just as the community is listening tonight. Over the next few weeks, before the holidays, the district will be sending a survey out to the community to poll parents about whether they are interested in continuing to explore this option or not. And now I will turn it over to Dr. Valenti.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll take my position at the podium.
Okay.
Put this aside. So, good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And we have a chock-full superintendent report tonight. So, picking up on our board president's introduction, we will talk about grade level reorganization as one of the tools in the toolbox. But before we do anything like that, we really want to talk about our students, because they're the most important folks here. It's why we're here. So we're honoring some students tonight, as we've made it a practice to do at every board meeting. And tonight we're honoring the girls' varsity swim and dive team. They are the winners of the 200-yard freestyle relay team. So would they come forward? You're sitting back there. Come on, all right, put it back on. Okay, let me tell you some great things about these guys. And Coach, are you standing back there?
Yeah.
Okay, great things about you, Coach, as well. They won the state championship on November 19th at Webster Aquatic Center, and guess what? Webster, New York, with a time of 1 minute, 37:39 seconds, okay? That is stupendous, and that's why they're standing here as champs tonight. Let's give them a big round of applause. Now raise your hand when I call your name, okay? The relay participants, I think there were 4 of you, were Luciana, there you go, Sophia,
No, you're not.
right here, Kale, Kale Sweeney, is that right? K-A-I-L?
Kate Sweeney. Kate Sweeney.
Kate, I'm sorry, well, it's a typo, forgive us. Kate, K-A-I-T.
Yeah.
All right, Kate, that was my mistake. It is K-A-I-T. Kate, raise your hand, all right? And Laura, right? Okay, now put your hands up simultaneously. Lay your pool in here. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you. So, also here, Gutierrez, raise your hand, swam the leadoff leg and broke the 25-second barrier in her best relay leg of the year. Right? Torres and Sweeney both broke 25 seconds as well, which is impressive since the race came right after they swam the 500-meter freestyle. Raise your hand, round of applause. Meyerly, where is Meyerly? Raise your hand, you were the anchor. Meyerly was the anchor and she posted an outstanding time of 23.59 seconds. Okay, and you beat the second place finisher, Victor Blumfield, by over 1 second, which is pretty good from swimming, right? By over 1 second. So Eastchester placed second as a team at the New York State Championships. So, Coach, I'm going to ask you to come up here. Please introduce yourself, and I know you want to say a few words. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. I just want to start off by thanking everyone for taking a second to acknowledge the hard work of all these girls standing here. And I just want to, through all this success, I just want to highlight, why it happened, and that was because of their commitment and discipline throughout the entire season, not just on the day that it was time to swim. It was through all that preparation is why that they were ready, and I think that's something that's really important not to miss here, and what they should be most proud of. And I would also like to introduce Lucy real quick. She also has something to say. Allie Pfeiffer, one of our team captains, is going to go first. Come on up, Allie.
Okay, hello, I'm Allie. We want to say a big thank you to our board, our coaches, and our parents, and our supporters. This especially all my teammates, because without them, like, things like this don't happen unless you have dedicated coaching and hardworking teammates. We made Eastchester history with an undefeated season, going 10-0, then winning the Section 1 title, then ending the season with the 200 free relay team winning first place, and the 400 free relay taking second place. That states.
What you have witnessed is the end result of strategic coaching by Kamani and Coach Nevin, and the team was committed to working hard to make this happen. We needed talent and depth in this, and this Eastchester Girls Varsity team had. The culture we live by is we win as a team and we lose as a team, and we get honored as a team. Thank you.
All right, stay here. We want to give you certificates. All right. Would you want to join me, Madam President? We'd like to present each of you a certificate. And what the certificate says is girls swimming state qualifier. This certificate is awarded to recognize the outstanding achievement of qualifying for the New York State Girls Swimming and Diving Championships in the fall 2022 season. And your board president and superintendent are signing it. So we're ready to begin? Where's Chrissy? Okay, great. So when we call you up, Kate Sweeney. Why don't you stand there, we can take a picture with you. Michael does the pictures. Great. Okay, another round of applause. Next up is Sophia Torres. Sophia. Okay. We'll give it to her later on, maybe? Okay, thank you. How about Luciana Gutierrez? There you are. Okay, do a Kodak moment with us. Okay, thank you, Mike. Okay. Next is Lauren Meyerly. Lauren? You brought it home, right? Okay. Oh, Lauren. 10 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, smile. Beautiful. Okay. Sophia Gutierrez. Sophia here. Congratulations. Okay. All right, smile for a nice Kodak moment. Okay. You ladies are sisters, I suspect? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. Wonderful. Allie Pfeiffer, is that correct? Allie. Okay, here's your certificate. Okay, thank you. And finally, Claudia Rapasarda. Right, Claudia? Beautiful. Thank you, Michael. Let's give them all a big round of applause. We want to see you back here next year, all right? Definitely. You got it. All right, very good, ladies. One big last round of applause. Okay. Is Alexandria Dennis in the house?
Hi.
Hi, come on up here. Okay, they don't know who Alexandria Dennis is, maybe. Hi, Alexandria, let me tell them, okay?
Okay.
All right. Alexandria was appointed last week as a 12-month nurse at Waverly School, and we're very proud to bring her on board. She has a wonderful background. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing, a master's degree in family nurse practice, and she is a nurse practitioner, which is the highest rank that's achievable as a nurse. So we're really delighted that you're working with the youngest of our children. Welcome aboard. You've already begun working, right?
Yeah, 3 weeks ago.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
So tell us about your experience.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Tell them about the fun you have.
Hi, everybody. My name is Alexandra.
For the last 4.5 years, I worked at Westchester Medical Center in the intensive care unit. Oh, sorry. And during that time, I actually shadowed as a provider in a pediatric office for about a year. So that was kind of the time that I realized that I did want to work with the pediatric population. So I saw this posting and I decided to apply, and I'm really glad that I did because the last 3 weeks have been amazing. And I want to thank Dr. Valenti and the board for selecting me for this position. And I'm really excited to get to meet everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you. We want to thank Dr. Stoll and Jeanette Messina for the hard work they did in the recruitment process. It is not easy to recruit for and find top-notch nurses. So thank you, Jeanette and Greg, for bringing us such talent. Okay. Next item on the agenda is grade level reorganization. And I could not have framed it better than I think the board president did. Our team is doing our due diligence. We're collecting data. We're bringing to the community what are the values of grade level reorganization and what are some of the concerns that grade level reorganization naturally and normally develops. So tonight I would like to address a number of issues. The first one, if we move this along, and there we go. Who are the Westchester districts using the plan? Now, this is not an argument for or against. It's simply an argument of what is the state of Westchester. And these are current Westchester school districts using the modified grade level reorganization plan. So we're showing them here to you alphabetically. Brewster, Byron Hills, Greenberg, Hendrick Hudson, Irvington, Mount Pleasant, Ossining, Peekskill, Rhinebeck, Somers, Tarrytown, Valhalla, and Yorktown. Okay? So those are districts currently using this plan right now this year. And so I did a little bit of analysis to help you better understand what these districts look like and what they represent. At the far left corner, you see the grade level distributions. Of the 13 districts, 8 of them, or 62%, have a 2-move distribution. So K2, they have sufficient room in A building to provide for housing 3 grade levels, and then a second building, grades 3, 4, and 5, all right? So they have sufficient space to do that. Then you have 2 of the districts reporting who have 3 moves, pre-K 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, and that would be somewhat similar to what an Eastchester model, if it were to occur, would entail, and that would be 3 moves for children between kindergarten and 5th grade. And then finally, you do have a group that have 4 moves, and that would be about a quarter of the group, 23%, and their model will be pre-K, then K1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's important data to add to the accumulation of evidence that we're trying to ascertain to get a better sense of what's going on with grade level reorganization, what's occurring out there, and what are the possibilities as we look at it. Another data point I'd like to share with you, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this one, it's important. Grade level reorganization improves teacher-student ratios for grades 2 to 5. Now follow the numbers on this because this is an interesting case study. Take a look at Ann Hutchison, far left corner of your screen. Now I'm using current enrollment, folks, or current numbers from Ann Hutch. The grades 2, 3, 4, 5. So in grade 2, you have 112 students, and we're using 10 sections, 5 in one school, 5 in the other. Using that metric, it shows you the ratios there, 1 to 22, Third grade, 1 to 21, 22 in the fourth grade, and then it drops to 20 in the fifth grade. Their mean or average at Ann Hutch with 5 sections, would be 1 to 21. Now shift over to Greenvale. Using the same 5 sections, 5 for each school, because Greenvale has a slightly larger population at each of the grade levels, not huge, but slightly larger, at Greenvale you would incur higher teacher-student ratios based on the fact of the differential of the number of students at each of the grade levels at each of the 2 schools. If you were to reorganize those same numbers and use the same number of sections, 10, what you would wind up with is a proposed reorganization where if Greenvale became the grade 2 school, they would have 239 students, and with 10 sections, in the second grade, 1 to 24, third grade, 1 to 23, and if you shift it over to Ann Hutch for grades 4 and 5, with all of our 4th graders and all of our 5th graders, you would come up with a ratio of 1 to 23 and 1 to 21, okay? Now, if an administrator at the district level was asked, using the same 10 sections or teachers, what would you do to that proposed reorganization to make it more attractive academically based on children's needs? Anybody want to answer the question? Please.
Create one more classroom in Greenvale.
You would?
I would consider the size of the classes in Greenvale and whether that's appropriate to have 25 kids in a classroom.
So what would you do? Using only 10 teachers now.
Does anyone have a class that has 25 kids?
My son has
We don't, we have 21.
We have 21.
So I don't think the state is accurate.
So here's what you would do.
There's 124 fifth graders at Ann Hutch.
My son has 20.
Look at the delta, the difference. Second grade,
But I think we're all saying this data doesn't seem to be
doesn't seem
accurate
right.
based on our own children's classroom sizes. So there's a question about the accuracy of the prior slide.
well, I'm going to get to actual data too, but this is actual data we're dealing with right now.
I
I
understand that,
just
but I
simply
think just
separated out
quick-
your Ann Hutch and Greenvale population.
But if you go to the prior page,
Yeah.
where you say that the average class size for second grade is 25 children in grade 2. I know my daughter's class has 21 students in grade 2. So unless there's a class that goes up to 30, like something just, and just from a quick straw poll in the room, we've got 20.
Now,
So
I
something
understand
isn't right
something.
with
I'm
your
using-
data.
I'm using this as an example.
So these aren't, I
I'm
think you
saying-
said,
So these are not the numbers?
These are actual numbers of children in our school now. I'm using 10,
Not possible.
10 as the metric. Okay?
but I think we're saying that your ratio doesn't seem, like, what you're saying, I think, if I'm correct, is that the current ratio in Greenville, I'm gonna pick on second grade, is 1 teacher to 25 children. Is that what you're saying is correct based on today's enrollment?
I'm saying if you had 10 teachers, 10 sections, it would be 1 to 25 currently, because you have a larger number in Greenvale. Now, in order to rectify it, the current organization does favor. The current organization favors Ann Hutchinson on average with a teacher-student ratio, period.
But I think what we're saying is this data, if you're telling us this is the current registration data,
Yeah.
it doesn't line up with the experience of the people in the room. So there's something that seems to be a
No,
mismatch.
because the delta is that you have more teachers at each of the schools.
So we have more classrooms. So this
Right.
isn't an accurate.
Well, watch how it does become an argument for reorganization.
Yes, but we would like to understand how many classes we have right now, and what's the average number of students per classroom, and how that's going to look like under the proposed model. Because that's very important to us, the number of students per
We're
class.
getting that, that's a future slide. Do you see this slide?
Yeah.
Now, what's wrong with that picture? Just as a hypothetical question.
I'm thinking you are saying the mass scale, okay? The totally student is the same, totally teacher is the same. Even you all reorganize, the teacher's work is the same. There's no difference. Why you play this mass scale here? Yeah. I'm PhD. I can recognize this very easily. You didn't make the 24 point something, then you looks like very obvious. Did you take the statistical check to see whether there's a significant difference? It's no. I will see it is not like that. So
this is an
if you're talking
example.
about other A, you want to do the reorganize. For this kind of reorganize, this is the mass A. There's no sense.
Thank you. So if you were to look at reorganization, it allows the district administration to level teacher-student ratios with the same number of teachers. To follow the logic of that, with the same number of teachers. So, look at grade 2. Those are real numbers, 239. If you put 11 teachers there, and those younger children need smaller TS ratios, I now have 1 to 22.
But we now don't even have that many students in the classroom as it is. We've never. I've been in Greenville 7 years, and my kids have never had more than 20 to 21. We've never had 20.
Because you're at Ann Hutch.
No, I'm at Greenville.
Well, then you have extra teachers, and that's what I'm pointing to. From a staffing point of view, what we did was just using 10 teachers. That was a constraint.
But
Okay.
how many teachers are we practically using right now, and how many are we proposing to use?
So take a look at this one. This broadens it to Waverly K1. See what we did at Waverly? We used the same 10, but we distributed 11 and 9 based on the number of students. The argument inherent in Waverly, and we'll make it for Ann Hutch and Greenville in a second, is that given a set number of teachers, you can come up with teacher ratios that are, number one, equitable across all students in a grade level, and number two, allow administration flexibility in redistributing staff. The third argument I would make is that we're currently employing 3 additional teachers in order to get you the numbers you've been talking about. And we can get the same ratios for 3 teachers less. Now let me answer one question before you jump down my throat. Because I met with a group of teachers, about 60 some odd, Claire? And the question was, well, Dr. Valenti, are you looking to cut staff? I'm not. No. I gave him 2 verbs. Reduce and reallocate. If we could reduce staff through reorganization and get a decent teacher-student ratio, do you know what we could do with those 3 vacant positions? Let me make some suggestions, and I bet there are more in the room. How many elementary guidance counselors do we have right now? 2? Why not a 3rd? Why shouldn't every school have a counselor rather than splitting? Do we have a library media specialist in each of our schools? Elementaries? Just the elementaries? I don't think so. Last time I looked, it was 0.4, 0.4, 0.2. So I'm not here suggesting elimination of jobs or positions. I'm here saying each Chester could underline, be served with more staff in the right positions if we looked at one tool in the toolbox to create equal teacher-student ratios. That's all. It's just a way of spending your money more effectively. And the tool is, in this case, to the chagrin of some, reorganization, that's all. I'm simply showing you a tool, and I'm using a hypothetical example, and then reverting to real numbers. So,
point of information.
If I could.
Point of information. I would like to ask the chair to tell us whether this is real data or not. We can't.
You're looking at
call
real
into
data,
question.
sir.
No, we're hypotheticals. You've used the word hypothetical.
No.
And we've used the word real data from the teachers and the students.
These are.
We got to know. Point of information.
Yeah, plenty of information is for 23-24, next school year. These are real numbers that we're projecting for next year. Real numbers. You are looking at what could be possible next year based on current enrollment. So, grade level 1, right? 183 next year. That's your current kindergarten at Waverly. Fact. Grade 2 at Greenvale, 240. That's your current first grade. We're assuming no drops and no adds, but it's what you call a cohort survival model of calculating future enrollment. And this is only 1 year, so you're not really too far off the mark. But you're looking at next year's enrollment.
Why are we using next year? Why we don't compare with this year? Because now
Well, because we're proposing this for next year.
But it's like a suggestion.
So, look, I don't want to create an argument. I'm simply stating a fact. And I'm simply saying, and numbers don't lie, that if you look at the numbers for next year.
Your number is wrong. If you look at the third one, Greenway, 240 divided by 10, what's the number? 22? It's 24.
One of the points that was missed that Dr. Valenti mentioned that may not have been put by everybody. This scenario. Get my mic on? Oh, perfect. Okay. One of the points that, and I apologize, Dr. Valenti, for interrupting, but I think there's a miscommunication going on here that you're not hearing what they're asking, but they didn't hear something you said. This scenario is based on a scenario where there were 10 teachers per grade level.
Right.
There are actually 3 additional staff members today that are not represented on that graph. So one of those is in the second, if I'm not mistaken, one of those is in the second grade at Greenville, which is why your classes don't match this number. This proposal, as I understand it, it's the first time it's presented to me also. But I just, because I see it from a different perspective, you know, I think I picked up on something that maybe you guys didn't pick up on, right? So if you have 21 kids in your class today in second grade in Greenville, it's because there are not 5 sections, there are 6 sections at Greenville. Okay, but that's also because right now there are 11 teachers at that grade. If I'm not mistaken, and you guys can correct me, there are 11 teachers at that grade level, level 2. This proposal would allow the district to reduce the number of teachers across the 2 elementary schools by 3 and still achieve 21 or so kids, I don't know if it was 21 or 22, equitable ratios of students that would not put us over the top and allow us then to use that extra money that's kind of available from those 3 reductions in teachers to add guidance counselors full-time at the elementary level and library media specialists full-time at the elementary. So I'm not yet even at the point where I'm evaluating whether I agree with that idea or don't agree with that idea, but we've gotten hung up on the math of this and why this doesn't look real. These numbers, there are 239 kids in second grade today, or maybe at the beginning of the year, I'm not sure if that's a beginning of the year number or a today number, but there are 11 teachers.
I have a suggestion. First, make this correct. Second, don't make it like just start with like 22 or 23. We need to see at least the 2-digit number. 22.1 Who?
This is a
Something like
presentation
that.
being made to me also, so but I also say this is a board meeting, and to the person who kindly used Robert's rules and brought a point of information, you're not a board member, so you don't actually have a right to have a Robert's rules. This is a board meeting, and I know we all want to hear from all of you, and there is a time, and I'm sorry if I'm stealing your thunder, there is a time for board comments. I know Dr. Valenti was eagerly inviting the membership to participate, but we need to follow procedures here, I think, and if it's okay, I'll suggest that we hear the full presentation, and then there's an opportunity again. And there's also, I think, is there one more coffee and conversation? Yes.
There is.
Yeah, so there's another coffee and conversation. The public forum is where we have the interaction with the community, and it's important to us, but this is being presented to us for the first time also, so we can't even, we need to be able to understand it as well. So I hope we can try and at least keep order in the meeting.
We totally understand that, and thank you for the clarification. At the same time, if we see some numbers that are unreasonable, I think it makes sense to point that out right away, because these numbers drive decisions.
I think that's a fair comment. I really do, and that's why I did interrupt out of line even for me to do as secretary of the board. We were getting hung up on something that was a miscommunication. I think
we do want to see those separately, probably.
Because that's only one point of the
numbers.
presentation. I need to see the whole presentation.
Right.
Yeah, and the actual numbers. So in Greenwood right now, what's the average number of students per class? That's what
And I apologize for the typo, but the argument still holds. The argument is that when you put all of your students at one grade level in one school, you arrive at equity in terms of teacher-student ratio, and you have greater control of the number of sections that you create. When you divide those same grade level students into two separate schools, you arrive at a lack of equity, differential staff, and expenditure on classroom teachers that could be redirected to other required positions within the school that we don't currently have. That's the larger argument I'm making, just based on the numbers. But let's talk about special ed.
But we have other things. So, like some kids can walk, for example.
Yeah, we'll give you your turn. All right, let me finish my presentation. Thank you.
Yes, the format of this meeting is that public comment is at the end, okay? And question and answers are for coffee and conversations. But right now, the board needs to listen to this presentation, and if you can please hold your comments to the end during public comment time. Thank you.
Good, thank you. So, currently in special education, grades 2 to 5, you see what we have at Greenvale, the two courses, programs, I should say, at Greenvale, co-teaching and modified core. And then you have at Ann Hutch, the full weight of our continuum services, since most of our special needs pupils are currently housed at the Ann Hutch School. And I thank Dr. Stowell for doing this work for us, and he will be available for comment at the appropriate time as well. If you go to the next slide, what would it look like next year? Well, obviously, if Greenvale became the 2-3 school, you'd have the full complement of your special education services for all of the 400 plus children who would be in those grades 2 and 3. And you can read the English language as easily as I can. There are co-teaching, modified core, intensive special needs, developmental special class, and communications developmental special class. Okay, and he shows the ages and the grade levels. And you can see a similar component or complement at the Ann Hutchinson School. So again, as we made with teacher-student ratio, there is the equity argument, and there is the equity argument here to serve our special needs pupils, 2, 3, and 4, 5. Number one, this provides equality and equity in program delivery, distribution of resources, and student services in grades 2 to 5. It allows all Ann Hutch and Greenvale students and staff to engage each year at every grade level. So again, second grade teachers are working with second grade teachers and being professionally developed, as is the 3 and 4. So the third part of this presentation gets to academics. And I think you're all familiar with the tests that we've been using as of the fall. The NWEA, Fall 2022, our ELA math results, which were generated in the spring, and the percent that is above the grade level norm. That's generally a metric for achievement, and normally it's proficiency and mastery. So we combine those two and give you an average. So we'll be looking at that kind of data. Okay. So placing all students on grade level will help reduce differences in performance, grades 2 to 5 in ELA and math. Okay. And this has been evidenced in terms of programs that are actually in place elsewhere. So if you look at your NWEA data, and this was conducted in September, October timeframe, and we're not making comparisons for any reason other than to show you the data. Data is data. You look at the 3 and the 4 grade levels, and you see the Ann Hutch results, and you see the Greenvale results, and that's trying to get an indicator of where students are at, benchmarking at the beginning of the year. A lot has been said about the COVID effect, the gap, etc. And this is somewhat reflective of the gap, somewhat. In several instances, Greenvale has a slightly higher percentage than Ann Hutch. In one instance, Ann Hutch has a slightly higher percentage. There are a number of variables that will contribute to that. Amongst them, the housing of special needs pupils, perhaps in one school than another, or other factors at work. But the differences are rather stark. And what we're looking to do is to level the playing field by reducing the gaps in the most comprehensive and systematic way that we can. Again, I'll show you math, and again, you see those gaps. Some less obvious, 2% at the 4th grade level could be insignificant. 15% at the 5th grade level could be very significant. The argument again is, can we more quickly reduce those gaps if all students are at the same grade level in the same building? So we have a presentation from Ann Hutch that addresses reducing academic gaps. And this might be an important time and a good time to press the pause button on my own presentation to bring up Dr. Keene, if she's still here. Dr. Keene, you haven't left her, right? Good. Dr. Keene is here and her team, and I'd like them to walk you through what we're doing right now in order to reduce academic gaps, okay? So let's welcome Dr. Keene and her team. Are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
All right. And yeah, that's it.
Okay, so good evening. And thank you to Dr. Valenti and the Board of Education for inviting us to present tonight. I think I have to state the obvious that it's not easy to follow a heated discussion about grade level reorganization, but luckily for everyone, I brought the dream team from Ann Hutch here. So we're going to do our very best. We wanted to share, to begin, that there are hundreds of amazing students at Ann Hutch. And I'm excited that one of them, 5th grader Hannah Johnson, has joined us this evening. And like Hannah, each of our students are totally unique in their hopes, their dreams, their areas of strength, and their needs for improvement. So the essential question we face as school leaders each day is, how do we organize the efforts of our extremely bright and very caring faculty members, several that I will introduce tonight, to ensure all students benefit from nurturing environments and equitable access to instruction that is differentiated to meet their unique needs. So it is challenging, important work, and we have found our most important strategy is building an effective multi-tiered system of support, which is called an MTSS framework, to enhance the implementation of evidence-based practices to achieve those important outcomes for each student. So as a district, Eastchester is committed to building a multi-tiered system that effectively supports the whole child in terms of academic learning, behavior, and social emotional learning. Dr. Stowell, our Assistant Superintendent of PPS MTSS Committee, that is working to identify current and future evidence-based practices that effectively meet the needs of students across these areas. So tonight, Ann Hutch would just like to share a little bit about how this work is shaping up at the elementary level, specifically in the area of academics. So at this time, I would like to turn the podium over to our assistant principal, Kristen Kumar, who is our MTSS leader at Ann Hutch and did a beautiful job preparing our slides to present tonight. She has brought to Eastchester a great wealth of knowledge and experience with MTSS, and she's going to provide an overview of the tiers and emphasize the importance of a strong core curriculum in Tier 1.
Thank you, Dr. Keene, and thank you everyone for hearing our presentation. So when you look at the MTSS framework, across the country, really we're looking at these 3 tiers. Tier 1 being our strong core curriculum, along with some interventions in the classroom, and that should support 80 to 100% of our students. When you look at Tier 2, that's supporting about 15% of our students, and that means that students are provided targeted smaller group interventions. And then Tier 3 is about 5% of our students, and we're looking at the intensive individualized interventions for students. So when we are thinking about these tiers at Ann Hutch, we use a variety of data points to help us support which students need support at which tier in our MTSS structure. The movement between tiers is fluid, always driven by lots of data points, and is again focused on our strong core curriculum and our skilled teachers who are able to implement those interventions, collect data over time, and assess the needs of our students. So when we think of Tier 1 at Ann Hutch, we're really thinking about, again, our strong core curriculum. So we are fully implementing our Reveal Math program. Our teachers have worked really, really hard to make sure that we found the right program that supports all of the students that we have at our school. So we feel really strongly that our Reveal Math is that Tier 1 support for both our core curriculum and some embedded interventions. We've also added in second grade Heggerty, which is really focusing on the phonemic awareness and the early reading skills to make sure that by second and third grade, our students have a really strong foundation, because we know that that's a really critical time when learning to read. And then we're thinking about the 5 pillars of literacy. And what are the variety of ways that we ensure that we are teaching and allowing students access to all of the pillars of literacy so that they can have a really well-rounded experience with literacy. So in terms of Tier 1, this is what it looks like right now, but we're always also looking for different tools in our toolkit to make sure that we're supporting all of our students. So then we think about, how do we know which students need support in which tiers? So this is an ongoing cycle. We screen students, we collect data, we analyze data, and then we match interventions. This is ongoing throughout the year. We have lots of different benchmarks, we have ongoing cycles, and as we saw before, we use our NWEA, which is our universal screener that all students are taking. We have our reveal assessments, which is a course diagnostic, unit assessments, and benchmark assessments. We have our Fountas and Pinnell benchmark assessment system, and we have our New York State tests, along with all of the data that teachers are collecting in their classroom. So every decision that is made in our MTSS structure is really rooted in student data.
So we wanted to just briefly highlight some of the structures that are in place at school for us to support the work. One of the most important is the all students progress meetings, and that's where we take a dive into each classroom's data. So the classroom teacher meets with myself, Kristen, our reading and math specialist, and our social emotional team to review each student's progress and ensure he or she is getting the support that he or she needs. Then as we continue to monitor the academic progress of our students, the teacher can always request an MTSS team meeting to consult as needed and to make any adjustments that are necessary in order to better meet the needs of a student. In addition, we are engaging in monthly professional learning sessions, and that's alongside grade level colleagues at Greenvale School. And our consultants from Generation Ready are guiding us to not only fully utilize our curriculum resources, but also build our professional expertise to use data to inform instruction for our students. So we thought it would also be helpful to share how this multi-tiered system of support is actually operationalized in an elementary school day, and what we call the WIN period, which stands for what I need, it's critical to bringing the framework to life. So WIN is a daily period that provides opportunities for every child to receive small group targeted instruction, both in and outside of their homeroom, and to explore opportunities for enrichment under the guidance of the classroom teacher. So in Eastchester, 2nd through 5th graders receive one 60-minute WIN period daily, and important supports and enrichment opportunities take place outside the classroom, which includes speech, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, social emotional learning groups, and instrument lessons in 4th and 5th grade. E&L services are increasingly being met in the classroom according to best practices, but beginning English learners may also be pulled out during the WIN period to get the support they need to develop their foundational language skills. So now, in terms of outside of the classroom, I'm pleased to introduce 3 amazing teachers who work with small groups of students during the WIN period. We have Lisa Silione, who will share about Tier 2 reading support, Dana Danhauser, who will share about Tier 3 reading support, and Dana Greco, who will share about math support for our students.
Good evening, everyone. So I am so happy to share with you that I am the Tier 2 AIS provider for Ann Hutch. And what I do is I pull small groups, usually 3 times the WIN cycle. So they're 50 to 60 minutes per time that I work with them. And I target my needs, the needs of the students in areas of phonics, sight word instruction, spelling, vocabulary, background knowledge, and comprehension. I use progress monitoring continuously to inform and provide next steps for the small group instruction and individual instruction. These programs are research-based, and they are structured in systematic and multisensory. And I use these programs to meet the needs of the students in both phonics and comprehension. And the goal for my students is for them to be able to use what they learned in my small group and bring it back into their homeroom classrooms and use those skills have like a little toolbox with them, bring it to their homeroom classroom, use those skills they've learned in my group, and apply it to ELA, and apply it to the content areas, science and social studies. And now I'm going to introduce Dana Danhauser, who works at the Tier 3.
Hello, everyone. So as she said, I'm Dana Danhauser. I work with the Tier 3 students. Tier 3 is a little bit different than Tier 2 as it incorporates 1 to 5% of the students. So my groups are smaller. Right now my largest group is 5 students. I see the students 5 to 6 times per cycle for an hour each session. I really wanted to highlight that I reached out to Annette and Scott about a year and a half ago and expressed to them my interest in getting Wilson Reading certified. I was trained in Wilson, but I wanted to be certified to help myself grow professionally, but to also better serve our Tier 3 students, right? And they both instantly wrote back to me and said, we would love to support you in this. The district would be happy to do this for you and our students. And I just feel very grateful to work in a district that would support teachers and students like that. So a little bit about Wilson Reading System. It's considered a gold standard for reading intervention for our most struggling students. I am a certified Wilson practitioner after a year of practicum, so I'm very proud of that. It's research-based, it's multisensory, it's based on the principles of Orton Gillingham. There's ongoing data collection, immediate student feedback, and then there's criteria that students need to meet in order to progress to the next level. So it's really data-driven. One thing that I really enjoyed doing this year is sending out emails to parents on how they can best support students at home. So I'll send them an email, this is what we're working on this week, here's some passages you can read with them. You can go on scavenger hunts around the house or looking for different word parts. And you know, I put in a student graph in there because they can actually see their progress. And you kind of see them really opening up and they're unlocking this code of reading, and it's really amazing. So thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Dana Greco, and I am responsible for math support at Ann Hutch and also Greenville. I see students every other day for 30 minutes. This year, the district invested in Do the Math. It's a research-based math curriculum created by Marilyn Burns. It includes 4 modules. There is addition and subtraction, multiplication, division, and fractions. All the lessons provide step-by-step instruction and scaffolded content to help students develop understanding, see relationships, and make connections. Because we know math is more about understanding than about just getting the correct answer. To strengthen their foundational skills, students explore different strategies for developing concepts and skills to build mathematical reasoning, And hands-on learning helps build that conceptual understanding through manipulatives and games, and strategically placed assessments are throughout the modules.
Okay, so thank you to Lisa, Dana, and Dana for giving that glimpse into the excellent academic support that they provide to students outside of the classroom. And now I'm happy to introduce 2 stellar 5th grade teachers, Deanna Santoro and Lindsay Farley, to share about the exciting opportunities for enrichment they are providing for students during the WIN period.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Farley, and this is Deanna. So when we started to think about the structure of the WIN period, we knew we had an hour of time. And we knew that we would be pulling students for small group instructions, but what to do with those other students while we're pulling, right? So then the WIN Learning Menu was created. Essentially what the WIN Learning Menu is a student choice board for independent projects. So the students are completely independent when they work on these projects. And what they love about the projects is that, one, they get choice. They get to choose what they are researching or learning about. And two, they get to choose how they want to present it. So I'll just go through a couple of the things that we decided to put on the learning menu. Social studies and science experts, students can choose anything under the umbrella of social studies and science. So we've had students choose specific places that they've wanted to go to. They've done weathering, natural disasters, things like that. Then we were like, okay, we always have those kids that are constantly doodling, like our little artists, right? So we're like, art for kids. There's a great site called Art Hub for Kids, so students can do directed drawing and they can learn different types of art. Or we have artists like that are just natural artists, so they can do a collection of a portfolio of their own art with specific topics. I have one student in my class, he's my secret artist, and he is doing all NFL logos. And he is freehand drawing all of them. He's so talented. And then another very popular one was Sports Fanatic. We both have lots of students who are so into sports. I think every Monday I come in like, oh, Mrs. Farley, did the Cowboys win? I'm a Cowboys fan. Did the Giants win? This, that, and the next thing. So we're constantly having that banter. So we were like, done. Sports Fanatic topic. They can do an athlete. They can do a sports team. They can tell us about the history. They can just run wild with that one. And then another one that built on the 4th grade concepts was person of interest. In 4th grade, they do a living wax museum where they have a whole background on biography reading and writing about a person, so they can build on their knowledge of that and continue that work. So basically our students have been doing their projects. They do Google slideshows, they do graphic novels through Pixton, posters, and if you're lucky, when Hannah speaks about her project, she even had a little takeaway gift for students. So she's one of our students who has really thrived in this process. But Deanna's going to talk a little bit about some of the feedback we've got from the 5th graders.
So one of the best parts of doing the WIN projects is for the kids to be able to celebrate the work that they do and also share it with other classes. So Ms. Farley and I go into each other's classes when we're done with our WIN projects, and the kids basically set up a station and they present it to the other students. We've actually been going into 4th grade classes as well, and now some of the 4th grade teachers have taken on the WIN menu and kind of rolled with it, and it's been great. The student feedback has been wonderful. So one student, Maggie, said she loved doing the WIN project and researching new things that she gets to pick. I think that's one of the best things, is to see that things that the kids are interested that we didn't even know about. Or if we read an article on Dubai, they're like, well, I want to do a project on Dubai. I don't know anything about that location. So that's been really neat to see. Mark said that WIN helps him express his love for art, and it shows that he has a fun side. You know, when do kids really get the opportunity to do exactly what they want to do? A lot of times, you know, it may not be in our curriculum, but they might be interested in a topic that they get to choose. And Natalia said, doing the WIN project is so much fun. I want to push myself to do even better. I did not make that up. She really said that, and you know, it brings tears to our eyes sometimes when you see the kids innately want to do more, do better. And one of the things that we've noticed is we just went into Ms. Farley's class last week, and they were like, oh, we have to do better than that. We're going to even up it, and we're going to embed videos in our slideshows. Or they're pushing each other to do a great job, which is so neat. And some of the topics that they've come up with that they are have done or want to do is Hamilton the music and foods I've never seen. I thought that was a great one, you know, looking at foods that they've never heard of or seen. History of cartoons, boxing, women in history, which is a little bit of what you're going to hear from Hannah. An art portfolio, the World Cup, our kids are obsessed with it, begging us to watch it all day long, every day. We might be watching a little bit. Roman gods, gymnastics, and then a ton of places. And what's also been neat is a lot of the kids want to share where their family is from. And a lot of the other kids don't even know about that their families came from these places, so it's been really, really neat to see them kind of rise to the occasion and want to be challenged. So it's been a really great experience.
So we're very lucky. Hannah has stuck it out all night with us here. And she is one of the students in my class that has just thrived in this project. I mean, we start with a slideshow. Mrs. Farley, I'm done with the slideshow. I'm going to do a Pixton. Go for it, Hannah. I'm done with my Pixton. Go for it, Hannah. I'm going to do a timeline, go for it, Hannah. And then, like I said, you can see her, she's in the picture there. People actually went to her station because those little things on her desk were bookmarks that she created to go along with her project that kids could take along. And what I loved and what I said to Deanna was, one boy came up and she was like, oh, would you like a bookmark? And he said, oh yeah. And he tried to take it and walk away. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. If you want to take a bookmark, you need to either read my poster, look at my Pixton, or go through my slideshow. So she's totally demanding the station. So Hannah's going to share a little bit about her experience. And I'm going to put this down. I know Dr. Valenti was going to use it, but.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Johnson, and I'm a 5th grader at Ann Hutchinson School. The WIN period is an exciting time for 5th graders because not only do we get to choose our own projects, but we get to design our own path for learning. We can use lots of different types of technology and more traditional methods like posters. We also get the opportunity to present our work to our teachers and friends, and this helps others learn from our project. For my WIN project, I chose to be a social studies expert. For this round, I chose to do a project about women's rights. I've always believed in supporting women and learning from women in history. To teach others about women's rights, I have created a Pixton comic featuring many famous moments in women's history. In my Pixton, which I have shared with you, I am time traveling. Next, I have created a slideshow featuring various women in history. It has photos and transition. You can choose who you want to learn about or learn about them all. Here is an example of a slide featuring Susan B. Anthony. Finally, I created a poster which we can pass around the table. The photo features a timeline and photos of the women's suffrage movement. I have images of Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. Being in charge of my own learning during the WIN period leads me and my friends to explore even bigger and more important questions. Do you have what it takes to fight for what you believe in? We do.
Amazing job, Hannah. We're super proud of you. And thank you to the Johnson family for coming out and bringing Hannah to the board meeting. We appreciate it. And thank you to our team. We are really blessed to have such a talented faculty and staff at Ann Hutch. So I hope you learned from our presentation.
Thank you.
It always goes missing.
Okay. Let's give the Ann Hutch team another big round of applause. Come on. Okay, not to be forgotten, we do have athletics here, as you know, from our first round of high school students. And there are some initiatives that we're looking at in terms of accomplishing over the next several years and also in the short term. So, Brad, are you still in the audience? Come on up here, Brad. People need to know you're part of this project as our AD. Brad Gitlin, our athletic director, is in his second year, and he has spoken to me about a 5-year plan that was implemented in the Chappaqua School District. As you know, Brad came from Chappaqua here to Eastchester. And it's a 5-year plan that looks to improve overall athletics, kindergarten through 12th grade, take a macro look at varsity, JV, intramural teams, look at the condition of our fields, number of fields, etc., playing fields in relationship to sports offered, professional training for coaches, student athletes, and also take a look at the athletic handbook, code of conduct, district policy, and many other things. And he also is very active with Section 1, which is involved in leadership development. So that would include for each of the seasons, fall, winter, spring, full day of training for coaches and athletes, and Section 1, their inside-outside programs and project, and how Eastchester could play a role in that. So on that note, Brad, would you come up and talk a little bit about the experiences you've had and what you'd like to see happen in Eastchester this spring and over the next few years? Brad?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Board of Education and Dr. Valenti for having me tonight. As Dr. Valenti mentioned, I think we've come to a crossroads in athletics nationally. This is not an issue here in Eastchester. This is something that we're seeing nationally when we're seeing issues of shortages of officials. We're seeing spaces that are not available, access to athletics that's not available to students. So what can we do here in Eastchester? And one of the best ways to do that is to really take a pulse of the community. And I think this is a great time to do so. And the strategic plan that I was participated in Chapel as the assistant athletic director and as a resident of the community really dives deep into not just what we offer, but it digs into policy. It digs into what the values of the community are really looking for in the programs, so that we can build a comprehensive plan for the next 5 years. We don't want to just sustain or maintain, we want to continue to grow. So this is a great opportunity. The leadership development piece, as Dr. Valenti mentioned, is we are looking to create, you hear the term from our district or many districts, portrait of a graduate. What does an athlete leave Eastchester with? And what do we want our athletes to learn while they're here? So process over goal. We know the goal of athletics is always to win, but what's the process and how do we get there? And so the Inside Out initiative, it's sponsored by the NFL and the New York Giants, has offered athletic directors in Section 1 opportunities for professional development. I actually had the third session this morning. And so it's going to be then turnkey to our coaching staff and our athletes. And it's also education for the community. And what educational athletics can look like, should look like. And so there are a number of resources that are provided through the section, New York State, and our partners. And I look forward to bringing those initiatives here to the Eastchester School District, and hopefully through some conversations with our partners and stakeholders, we have some shared values and shared understanding of what athletics can look like over the next 3 to 5 years.
Okay, good. Thank you. Good. Would you just give him a round of applause? One piece I wanted to pick up with you, when we talked about leadership development, let's assume we're talking about spring sports, all right? What would that look like for a spring sport for the coach or coaches and the athletes? What would a full day of training look like from your perspective?
So I want to break that into 2 different buckets. So currently for the Section 1 Inside Out initiative, the leadership training that we're looking at is really digging into the idea of, first and foremost, why we do what we do. Why does a coach coach? Because if we understand our why, we can then create a vision for what we want, not only for our athletes. I talk about programs, not teams. So our football program, our varsity program down, JV, modified, even intramurals. And then, is that aligned with the why of our district, the why of our philosophy here educationally, our alignment with policy? Do they all make sense? And so it allows our coaching staff to really create and own their leadership, their why, and their how, and then the implementation process. The second bucket is engaging a program that does multiple summits per season, that again creates a shared language between coaches and athletes in particular, so that we are building the capacity day to day of what coaching, what leadership looks like in today's educational athletic, interscholastic athletic landscape, so that we're not coaching in the years of the past, we're coaching in the years of the future.
Good. Okay, thank you. I'm sure we'll be hearing more about this as we move into the rest of this year and into the multi-year plan. So again, thank you, and we'll be working well. Let's give them a round of applause. So the last area that I wanted to speak about tonight is our state tests, academic improvement, and what would some of the goals be in terms of what we know about data at this point. This gets to what our board president suggested was our second strategic goal, improving academic outcomes. And I tried to outline here at least 4 areas. I don't want to feel limited to this, but we talked about proficiency rates and improving them on grades 3 to 8 ELA tests. Currently, our data show we're at about 67% proficient. That means that is a number that, while good, could become better. And if we aim for 80%, and I'll show you why 80% can be an important number for our community, at least equal to that or greater in ELA tests, that would leverage us in a direction that would be very positive. I'd like to see the same in math. We're currently at about 66%, levels 3 and 4. And you could do the math on that as well. That means that minimally 34% of our students are at levels 1, which is failing, and levels 2, which is developing. How do we help that 34% or 33% in ELA begin to move forward? Dr. Keene did address that with her team through the WIN period, but is that enough? That is one tool. We have to look for multiple tools to begin to move that metric closer to 80% at least or greater. Let's not forget science. As you know, the science test is moving from grade 4, which it normally had been for the past several years, to grade 5 next year. And so I'm using grades 5 to 8 science tests. Currently our numbers are at 75%. Very strong at grade 4, somewhat weaker at the 8th grade. The average is 75%. So again, minimally, if 80% is a goal, it's a shorter road to travel, but it is going to be under the new standards and more rigorous testing. And finally, when we look at our Regents data, which are very respectable, we need to increase participation rates. We'll look at a couple of Regents tests, particularly in the higher level science and math, where we'd love to have a greater participation rate of students while maintaining a very respected 90% proficiency rate, and kudos to the high school faculty for achieving these goals in leadership. So let's dig into some of the data that we've put together here. Statewide, Eastchester ranks in the top 10% of all New York State districts on their grades 3 to 8 tests. That's a very important statement, okay? Westchester is going to be a little bit longer and take more work. But look at what's happening at the state level. LOHUG did a study of 646 districts throughout the state. There are slightly more than those, but that's a pretty good representation. There are around 700 and change districts, but when you eliminate 50 BOCES, it gets down to the 690 range. So a certain number didn't report. But out of those 646 districts in ELA, we placed in the 92nd percentile, or 51, okay? That means we're in the top decile, right? And based on 1,201 of our students who were tested, 810 of them, or 67%, were proficient, levels 3 or 4. Come down to math, slightly better, we ranked 47 out of 646. Again, 93rd percentile, top decile. And again, based on about 1,222 students, 816 or 67% scored proficient. And finally, when you combine that data, which LOHA did, we placed in the 92nd percentile. Again, the top decile and 51st in the state, and that was using 1,201 students. This is something to celebrate. It's a net plus. We want to keep it there. We thank our teachers, we thank our leaders, we thank our boards for providing the resources for making this happen. I also ask parents publicly to help us by encouraging your children to be involved in the test. Don't opt out. Our children need to be challenged. They need to understand that tests do play a role in society. They need to understand that society is competitive. And when you look at some of the top-ranked districts, they have a much higher participation rate than we do. So I urge parents to be partners with us, to believe in what we're doing, and to help us by not opting out of the next set of tests that will be coming up in the spring. So who are the top performers in New York State? Bronxville is number one statewide. Okay? They're at 89%. You can read the list. Our good friend Scarsdale, close second, 88. Rice City, friend of ours, 82. Edgemont, around the corner, 81. Then Hastings, across the way, 81. Byram Hills, we mentioned earlier. Remember why we brought Byram Hills up, one of those Princeton plan districts? 79%. My home district, Blindbrook, 78%. Irvington, 76%. These are proficiency rates. Pelham, Ardsley, Mamaroneck, Rhinebeck. And then we placed 51 at 67%. Okay? Top decile, respectable. But now you get a better idea why I tried to put us at 80%. If we can get to 80%, now we're moving up the list of the most competitive districts. And that's a challenge that I think all of us should accept. Our board, our superintendent, our assistant superintendents, our administration, our faculty, our parents, and our students. Let's accept the challenge of doing better. We're doing good, but can we do better? Now, who are Eastchester's top 10 academic competitors when I look in Westchester? The usual suspects. There they go, Bronxville again, Scarsdale, Edgemont, Hastings. You can read the list as well as I can. Top 10. Now, 15 ain't bad. Ain't bad. Can we do better? That's the question I ask us tonight. Use of the win period, use of other tools in the toolbox. Can we do better? And I think that's the important question before us. Can we challenge ourselves more? Okay. Where is Eastchester right now when I look at it by grade level, most recent tests? Grade 3, we're ranking 12th at 72%. You can look at the list as well as I can. Okay? We're in the teens, grade 6, 11, close. No cigar yet. But notice the number there, 81%. The closer you get to 80%, the closer you get to being competitive in the top 10 in Westchester. So that's a metric that has a high correlation with each other. And I would suspect that there'll be repetitions of this from year to year going forward. So that's the ELA, and we're, the mean, the average is 67%. Okay? Look at math. Again, 66% is the mean. Actually, in grade 8, we tiptoed into the top 10, if you're doing it by grade level, okay? And that's only 58%. You're gonna say, well, how did that do it? That means that grade 8 testing was more difficult, more challenging. Districts performed less highly, less well, and 58% got you up to that particular ranking, okay? So the difficulty of the test, the year, etc., all are variables that play into this. Look at science. Grade 4, 94%, but still only 15th in Westchester. That means the test was not as challenging. So if we were about 97, 98%, definitely top 10. Grade 8, interestingly, we were at 56% proficiency. You might say that ain't that good. Well, it was a tougher test, all right, more difficult. And quite frankly, students may not have been as prepared county-wide. And so we ranked 12th. So we're going to continue to look at this metric. It's very helpful to guide us in terms of where we ought to go. Quick look at our regions, okay? Again, compared with Westchester County data, English, home run, 96% proficiency rate, and you're in the top 10. Global studies, 96%, very good, 12. Algebra 1, you're right there, one of the top 10, 93% success rate. Geometry, we're missing, let me see. No, we ranked 7th, that was good, with 198 students, and 76% proficiency. Obviously a more difficult test than Algebra 1. And then Algebra 2, trig, we ranked 2nd with 98%. Okay, so kudos to those students and teachers. In the science family, 220 in earth science, they took that test, ranked 14th with 94%. Living environment, 99%, 224 students. And my goodness, we ranked 11th. That means 10 other districts were at 100%, okay? Chemistry, 194 students, respectable number, ranked 3rd. Physics, 78, smaller number, ranked 2nd, 99%. So the recommendations here is that keep the proficiency rate, levels 3, 4, 5, right? Can we improve the participation rate? We're generally running at about 200 students, 200 plus per grade level. So Algebra 2, can we get that above 200? Chemistry, can we get that above 200? Physics, can we get that 100, 150, etc.? So those are challenges as we look toward the future, but let's keep the proficiency rate where it is, which is very successful. Now, I'm going to bring up a question of wealth, because a number of people say, well, of course, the 10 districts you showed us, start with Bronxville, they're all wealth. A lot of wealth there, no matter how you measure it, assessed value, adjusted gross income. So that drives academic performance. Okay, it's almost like it comes naturally. Well, does it? These are the top districts in wealth. Doesn't that look familiar? I thought I saw that when you pointed at the academic success. The only new entrant I see is Harrison, where I spent 10 years. They are wealthy. They didn't show up academically, not yet, but very close correlation. We're at 19th in wealth. So I'm saying, can we punch above our weight? Can we perform above our wealth rank? I don't care that we're 19th in wealth. That doesn't justify being 19th academically, does it? I don't think so. Let's do better than our wealth. Let's show them we can do even better and be in the top 10. So there. So moving into the top 10 on all grade 3 to 8 ELA and math proficiency levels will show value added performance. That means the taxpayer is getting more for their money than they're paying. That's not a bad deal to me. Right? And if we move from an average of 15 in ELA to an average of 10 or greater, again, that's value added performance. So as we look over the next few years that we're going to be together, I'd like to see us address this and work harder to move children who are at levels 2 into levels 3, and move our children who are in level 1. That means not succeeding, and that's not good, and it's not acceptable. We've got to move them minimally to level 2. Okay? And so all the efforts that are afoot that you're hearing about are geared toward that direction. There are different tools in the toolbox, okay? Would we like to have all of them? Of course we would. Are we going to get all of them? I don't think so. Not right away. But at least you know what the tools are. Thank you. Thank you.
Get ready for Kristen. Kristen.
All right, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Valenti? That was a long superintendent's report.
It was long. I apologize.
No, I'm sure you want to sit now.
We have to digest.
Yeah.
I'm questioning because there's so much presented, but we gotta really look into that because I think your approach, you can't hear?
Okay, you don't.
My voice, you can hear? I don't know, is this on? Okay. Yeah, there's like so much there that we're gonna have to really look at and absorb and come back, and I think we gotta have an ongoing discussion on this stuff because, you know, we've always done well and there's never been a reason we, see what you guys for? There's never been a reason we couldn't do better. And now I think, you know, the goal here right now is to figure out what we have to do to get us up to that next level. And, you know, more opportunity for more people to take the Regents exams, that's great. If you look at some of those subjects where we're performing at the 99th level, there's no reason that we can't recruit people who can do that stuff, but we also got to get them up to those high levels as well, because you don't want to diminish the program. You want to make each student have the best ability to accomplish something they think they can. So there's a give and take we got to do there. There's just a lot to absorb. So that's my only comment.
I would just say, is this on yet? Can you guys hear me? Thank you. I would just say to your point, Vito, there's a lot here to digest and kind of unpack, but just to reiterate, I think, Chris, you mentioned there was going to be a community survey that's going to go out right before the holidays. I know for myself, I'm really interested to see the data that comes back on the community survey, so I think it's really wise that that's going out sooner rather than later. You know, to get the feedback from not just the people that show up to coffee and conversations or the people that come to the board meetings, but kind of the larger community. So I'm really interested to see that. And I would say to everyone here tonight, please tell your friends, tell your neighbors when they get it, make sure that they fill it out and send it in, right? Because I think, you know, we hear a lot from the community, but I think the more participation that we get, the more important. And I will say there is another coffee and conversations coming up, I believe, on December 5th. So please use that to come and talk to us there. Coming out of the Greenvale one, you know, I think there was a lot of good conversation, a lot of good discussion, a lot of food for thought. But again, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, please fill out that survey because information is power. And the more information that we have, that's how we're going to make the best informed decisions. So please share that, spread the news. I'm sure it's going to go out in a couple of different ways.
I don't know if the Ann Hutch team is still here, but I just wanted to say thank you. That was a great presentation. I know I was wondering what happens during that win period. And I asked my son and I don't get any information. So I thought that was really great. And I love that it was student driven and student interest. That was a really great presentation. I'm so happy to see what's going on in that win period. Okay, so we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to move the consent agenda? Okay, Matt?
resolved, the Board of Education approves the consent agenda, which includes the following: 9 approval of minutes, 10 personnel agenda, 11 committee on preschool special education recommendations, 12 pupil personnel recommendations, 13 business office recommendations, 14 other business items.
Do we have a second? Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay, all in favor? All right. So, future meeting dates, December 13th, regular meeting, and January 10th, work session. We are now up to comments from the public. So just a reminder that this is not the forum for question and answer. This is an opportunity for the public, if you would like to make a statement, just sign in, give your name and address. We're happy to listen. You have 3 minutes. Anyone?
Do I speak here?
Yes,
Yes. Hi. Okay. Hope you
One.
all can hear me. Sorry.
One.
Okay. So good evening. I'm Margaret McCarthy at 5 Bronson Avenue, and I speak tonight as a parent in the district of a 1st and 4th grader, and also as an elementary school teacher of 18 years. I'm here tonight to express my concern about the reorganization proposal. I know I've already emailed the board, and I appreciate you all taking the time to read and briefly respond to my email, so thank you. Kate Weiss and I documented our growing concerns into a petition that has been shared throughout town recently. Our petition is called Say No to Reorganizing Eastchester Schools, and I just wanted to paraphrase a bit of it for brevity right now, what people have been signing onto. So some of our concerns can include, 1, we feel that our children have had enough change over the past 3 years. For many of them, this is the first normal school year that they've ever had. This new plan would force them to transition unexpectedly once again. And the mental health impact of COVID-19 on children is still not yet fully understood. These changes mean that they risk becoming less connected to their peers, their teachers, their older student mentors, and their school at a time when they most need a sense of stability and security. 2, there will undoubtedly be an increased time spent on buses as children are transported from one end of town to another. Many of our youngest students already spend 45 minutes on a bus every morning and again every afternoon. So this increase in busing, I know you've heard, would mean more traffic, and we're very concerned about the children and traffic in town, which is congested already. I'll skip ahead a few. For families with multiple children, this plan means that 2 siblings will never have the opportunity to attend elementary school together if they're more than 1 grade level apart. Parents will have to juggle events at multiple schools, and siblings will have no shared school experiences. Also, I know it's been spoken about before, the property values. Many people in town purchased homes believing that their children would attend a neighborhood elementary school. And we've heard from multiple families that they would not have moved to Eastchester if they had known that this was a possibility. And also, moving forward, we know that this plan will take a lot of time and energy and resources, as it has tonight, and of the Board of Ed, the administration, and the teachers. And we just feel like there are more pressing issues and projects right now that should take precedence, like the large and exciting but costly bond project and construction that's about to begin. And at the last meeting, Dr. Valenti remarked that, and on the Word document, that the only downside to this plan would be some disruption of just 1 year. And this statement feels dismissive and leads us to question whether or not we've fully examined the impact of the proposal. So the petition right now has almost 500 signatures and dozens of impassioned comments, and it's just 2 days old. As awareness grows, I expect more signatures will accumulate. I'll send a printed copy of the petition as well as the signatures and the comments. But clearly there is significant concern among residents about this proposal and the speed at which we feel it is moving through. Our children are just beginning to get back to normal. Dr. Valenti arrived in our district just 5 months ago. He's still in the early phases of getting to know us, and we're still in the early phases of getting to know him. So we just feel like this is not the right time to rush into a change that really requires trust and partnership between district leadership and the community. Thank you for your time.
So I do have multiple children who would be greatly affected by this, and it seems after the trauma of the pandemic to disrupt them every other year, I mean, is literally breaking families apart. I don't understand the logic of the plan. You know, some of the benefits mentioned, potentially higher test scores, some redistributing or reallocation of teacher positions and resources, and possibly some cost-saving benefits. What this fails to recognize is the immeasurable impact this will have on families. How is a parent going to be across town picking up another child when another child is getting off a bus somewhere else? These are all young children we're talking about, not high school age students who can be left alone. So after-school activities will be completely demolished, as will working parents who have to spend an hour or more getting children to multiple schools in the morning or on multiple buses and on the return home. So literally cutting their working day that much shorter. I would also mention that the first slide mentioned some of the districts that are doing consolidation currently. Well, it seems we're right on line because most of those districts had 2 elementary school moves, which we have right now, from Waverly to Greenvale or Ann Hutch. There was only 2 districts on that slide that showed that there were multiple moves, 3 or more, I think. So we're already in line with the 8 other districts who do consolidation by separating the elementary schools as they are. So I would just ask the board to keep in mind the very real and immeasurable costs that this will have against, you know, some test scores, which not to diminish and are important, but surely there's other ways to bring up those test scores by not impacting the entire community at large. I mean, it just seems outrageous that at this juncture, after 3 years of being in a pandemic, this particular generation of children who've had their entire elementary school age disrupted, to create disruption every other year. There's going to be a complete crushing of school spirit, because who will care about being at a school, parents and students alike, if you're only going to be there a year or 2? And those are for students we're talking about who are lifelong residents of this district, who would go through from pre-K to high school, would be going to 5 schools or more in their education. Not to mention the students who move here from other places or move out. So thank you for your consideration.
Question. I just got, you know this is not being seen by
Yes.
the members of the community. Is there a reason why it wasn't corrected so the members of the community who couldn't come here be?
She's saying with the technical difficulty they got posted, the link doesn't work, but it's being recorded. You could actually speak to it a lot better than I could. Is that
Absolutely. So we have a problem with the live stream box right now and the camera itself. So what we're doing right now is recording, and as soon as the meeting is over, it's going to be posted almost immediately. Yes.
Late, but better than never.
Yes.
I'm sitting here and listening. I am 78. I've been in this community for a long time. I hear the superintendent. To me, he's not listening to the parents or the parents' concerns. You hear this woman who just spoke, very articulate, from the heart, her kids, and everybody else sitting here, their kids. I've always thought, and as I was a teacher at one time, that the children of the community is what it's about, not the superintendent, not the administrators. The students. The students count. How the parents feel counts. If you don't hear what parents are saying, if you cut them off because you're the Board of Education and you don't think they're relevant, there's going to be a problem in this community. I'm watching people in my community saying they will move out. We're just having a whole group of people moving in because they assumed and thought that the Eastchester community and the school district was good. What you are going to do is not prove that correct. When I hear people on my street who've moved in for the last 2 or 3 years, because of the pandemic, they wanted to get out of Manhattan or Brooklyn or wherever, and they chose Eastchester. They chose it for the school system. And they paid a lot of money for their homes. And to hear them say they're going to move now, there's something wrong that's going on here. Listen to the parents.
Can they speak to on the podium microphone, because I'm having trouble with that microphone? Is that okay?
Sure.
Absolutely. Do you mind speaking on the podium microphone?
You want to put me there?
Sorry, it's a lot louder. Apologize.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for your presentation. My name is Robert Cardilano, 40 Hickory Hill Road in Eastchester. My wife and I have been living in Eastchester for 20 years. Prior to that, we're longtime residents of Yonkers. Regarding this reorganization discussion, I can tell you that one of the reasons why we moved out of Yonkers to Eastchester was to move into a neighborhood school system. We saw firsthand the impact of forced busing and the resultant loss of neighborhood community and feeling of engagement and connection of the parents to the schools that led to a loss of financial support and ultimately people moving out of Yonkers because of the issues related to it. With our 3 oldest children, we've had 5 children. All 5 of them have gone through Eastchester schools. Very excellent results. We're very happy. 3 of them graduated college and 2 of them are in college now. So we're very happy with living and working and existing in Eastchester and having our children be in the school system. But I can tell you that when the 3 oldest children were going into elementary school, we were told in Yonkers that they could actually, all 3 of them could be in 3 different schools. And that was deeply concerning for us as a management issue, just as parents, just to deal with it. And I know there might be some supposed benefit that could be academic. I actually, those might be true. I don't think I've seen sufficiently enough of it. And to be honest, to the superintendent, you mentioned at the last meeting that those results are self-evident. They might be self-evident for teachers and educators, but they're not self-evident or aware for the community. I think more effort would have to be communicated about whether the academic benefits really would outweigh. So there's more to be done there. But just from the spirit of support of the community into the school system and the impact that would lead to a reduction of support for the schools actually could go counter to your very efforts to try to improve the school system. Because frankly, to improve the school system academically requires financial resources. That requires financial commitment and support for budgets. That doesn't come without cost. It's not easily won, and it's hard fought in a place like Eastchester, but it is easily lost because we saw what happened in Yonkers. After many, many decades of being an excellent school system, how quickly that school system lost its quality because of the loss of what I consider to be a neighborhood school program. We live in our town. We moved to an area where we were walking distance to the elementary school, to the middle school, to the high school, and very close to Waverly. And the earlier person mentioned that. But I can tell you historically, we've seen what happens when you do reduce commitment to community by reducing neighborhood schools. And I think we can't underestimate the impact of that for what you're trying to do. I want to thank you all for your efforts. And just one comment on your assessment of data. I would suggest that when you share that data, it looks like you have a snapshot in time, one data. It might be helpful to look at that data longitudinally or 5 or 10 years to see how Eastchester has ranked in some of those areas that you evaluate and see the trend line, not just the point in time. I think the data you pointed was from 2021. Perhaps that's not the best data point to look at because of COVID. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Hello, my name is Sean Bolduc. I am at 14 Myrtle Place. I'm the proud father of 3 girls, all in the elementary schools in Waverly. I will first of all say, I think the school district has so much potential, they punch above their weight. When you listed all of those school districts, you're right. Those top 10 were, from an economic point of view, were a little bit above our overall average. A lot of people pay for us because we don't want to give. A lot of us moved into this particular town adjacent to your Bronxville and your Scarsdale so that our kids understood that you got to earn it. So that's an important thing to be, and we will punch above our weight, and I think we are. And I'll say from an education point of view at Eastchester, particularly at Ann Hutch, my kids struggled with reading. They love it now, And that's a lot to do with these teachers here. So a couple comments from your presentation. Last week I'd like to include, when you talk about the data, we're pointing out that Ann Hutch and Greenville are both A-ranked schools. They could be A+. I agree with you. I'm all about that. The second part to that, though, is when you talk about a few of the pros of the schools, you did point out that Ann Hutch has a beautiful auditorium. You forgot to point out today it has a very majestic, classic asbestos ceiling up there. You also pointed out that we have a classic electronic panel board that restricts how much work can actually be done in there. So those things would be nice for Greenville people to probably be exposed to. The other part to this as well, in terms of initiating reorganizations, there are regulations in New York State that we need to make sure that we follow so that we don't gum up the works if you're going to go down this route. And as I quote, it states, although the Commissioner of Education may authorize or lay out the combination of districts and reorganizations, the practice has been that the district will not include such order until adequate study is available and indicated for the proposal desired. The people of the district have been informed and potential reorganization, and the majority of the voters of the district of the affected area have been heard. This needs to go to a formal vote. And if you put it to the budget, I'm an engineer. I deal with NEPA policies and getting all through these systems, and it's very important to make sure you follow the steps if you're going to go through that. A few things in there. Transportation is a massive thing. There was a wonderful study because we were trying to save Saks and Saks over here and figure out what they did. They did a huge traffic study. You should all look at it. It's publicly, it's up there. The LOS, level of service on that road right now is a D and an E at normal times. Bus services right now, as they flow, are like gravity, right? So there are a few things we need to make sure that we understand. If you do this, the study needs to include a traffic study, an impact traffic assessment. There should be a macro study of the traffic flows, a micro study around the schools because they do impact that. What is the queues in the school districts now versus where they can go? All this stuff needs to be included in this stuff and given out to public comment so we can make sure that we understand it, we comment on it, and it's a report that's published prior to even being voted on. So that's a big thing. I think there was one or two other things. The other thing, 92nd percentile. Many schools up here in the percentile, I mean, it's phenomenal. Now, we should get better. We should get better, but it's great. But lastly, the biggest thing is, a lot of you who got voted into the board last year, you got voted into a board with a golden ticket of a bond referendum to improve and update our school district. You can waste that and go through this. Or you can really be known, for getting rid of all the asbestos in the school, allowing the kids to have air conditioning, allowing the kids to be able to run all the computer programming for the science and the software and the STEM works to make this school district even better. So don't waste what's been given to you. And you have it all. I don't know.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is John Carroll. I'm from 5 Caldwell. A lot of my thunder has been stolen, so I applaud my neighbors for saying a lot of the things that I wanted to say. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. We do have a good school district. I'm not a blue parent, I'm not a red parent, purple parent. I need to understand, you need to explain to us what the benefit is to my child for spending an hour in transportation for probably 4 years of their lives. I think if you're in a job, someone says to you, hey, we got this great job, but we're gonna add an hour of commute to your day. That's a little kid. We want to improve our test scores, right? We want to get them even higher. Why don't we spend that money, those resources, that hour of their lives every day in a classroom or with a special program after school? Things that, really will improve that score, not sitting on a bus. That's what's going to happen. I voted for a lot of you here, and I believe in you. You'll make the right decision, but you've got to get independent understanding of what's going on here. Get the statistics, not an isolated data set. Understand what's really being proposed, analyze it, and see what that extra hour means. Thank you very much.
Colleen Canning, 87 Highland Avenue. Thank you for your time and your careful consideration of all these issues. I'm a concerned mother of a fourth grader and a second grader. My second grader is in special ed and will be directly impacted by this potential move. Transitions are hard for special kids. This will be devastating after the trauma, and I don't use that word lightly, but after the trauma of COVID. This is her first normal year in the classroom, 5 days a week, and now it's been difficult, but she's made the transition to Ann Hutch, and now we're going to ask her to go over to Greenville. Part of why her success, how she's been so successful at the transition at Ann Hutch, is because her older sister in Gen Ed is there as a fourth grader, modeling what good behavior is and how to acclimate herself to the new routines and the new teachers and the new environment. She also has benefited from the mentoring of her fourth grade sisters, friends, and peer groups. I would hate to lose that. I would hate to separate the two children. Everyone has said, I echo so much of what has been said here for the general, but I just wanted to give you a personal anecdote of how difficult it will be for a child in a self-contained classroom at Ann Hutch to transition to Greenville for 1 year and then return back to Ann Hutch. It'll be incredibly difficult. Besides the transportation issues, besides all the increased traffic burden and just a logistical nightmare for parents, most of whom are two-parent working families, when you have to retrieve one child at one neighborhood school and another child at another neighborhood school within a 5-minute, it just doesn't work. So I hope that you bring careful and deliberative thought to this process and make it a process rather than just I don't know where the January timeframe comes from or how you can do all these environmental engineering studies, collect all your survey data, distribute all the survey data to the community, and reflect and make a purposeful decision by January. I don't think that is possible, but I will be along for the ride, and I will be here at the meetings, and I look forward to working with you and partnering with you for a solution so that Eastchester can improve our test scores, but I don't think that this right now is the way to do it after the experience of COVID. Thank you.
I want to thank everybody on the superintendent, the board members of the school for taking the time to explore this issue and have a debate with the residents here. I would advocate for more letters from the superintendent in the coming weeks about the findings and process to increase the transparency. To date, I've really only seen two district notes on it. I think some of the parents I've spoken to, there's a sense that this is a done deal, and that's perhaps why there aren't more people here tonight. I'd also urge you to get input from teachers, perhaps in an anonymous way, so you get a little more honesty from them. I have twin second graders at Greenville, and they seem happy there, even as they just some of their friends at Ann Hutch. Dr. Valenti referred to this at the last meeting as a, quote, modified Princeton plan. Some of the material I've looked at indicates the reason for doing this include integration, which doesn't seem to apply to Eastchester, but tonight's presentation indicates a key reason is the stark score differences between Ann Hutch and Greenville. And the other rationale is based on cost. I haven't heard a lot about that, and I hope the district will provide a little more information on the financial ramifications of this decision. Even though I know the superintendent said tonight is not interested in cutting positions, but I'm sure some of the teachers are concerned about that. Some districts also seem to have taken 6 months or more to review such consolidation plans, and my concern is by seeking to do this by January, it just kind of feels rushed, and particularly when a lot of parents will be distracted during the holiday season. Two issues that don't apply to me, since I have two 7-year-olds in the same school district. I do feel for the parents. the kids at Ann Hutch that will have to go back next year and then back to Ann Hutch. I think that's you know, a lot of movement for those kids. And then also for the parents that have kids in different schools. I think that's tough. Getting around here is not so easy, as they've mentioned. Finally, Dr. Valenti mentioned at the last meeting that children are resilient and can adapt rapidly to change, and I do agree with that, but I think there is a lot of movement around for these kids, as the parents have mentioned, particularly with COVID. But I thank you, and I look forward to hearing more from everybody here.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry for my English. So I just want to say thank you, but I have also a few concerns. For example, I moved to Eastchester 11 years ago, and I have 2 kids going to Eastchester school. And for me, it's very important that they can walk. For example, I'm waiting like 5th grade, so kids can walk and like enjoy friends walking after school, and like it's kind of feeling freedom and independent. And when we thinking about rotational this stuff, so it's like we're losing this opportunity. That was very important for me when I moved here, because it's a walkable town, so we can use this chance to walk for kids and feel more independent. And another thing, so there are so many parents and nobody say, yes, we agree with this, let's do it. So all these parents kind of have a lot of things to complain. And another suggestion, if we want to do some changes, we can rotate teachers from Ann Hutch to Greenville, from Greenville to Ann Hutch. Why we need to rotate like kids? We can use teachers, it will be easier for them. It will be not so stressful. It will be the same town, just they can share their experience. So I feel like we need to make it more easily kind of friendly for kids to do that. And I talked with my kids and said, what do you think about that? And they said, oh, no, we don't want it. So it's kind of, I have not just my opinion, it's also my kids stand with me and they not agree. So I feel like it's idea of changes of something, it's good to change something, but I feel like this changes is not for good stuff. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the presentation. Dr. Valenti, Luis Hevia, by the way. Dr. Valenti, I'm going to pick up on the thing you said. Kids need to be challenged. 2 things. If you want to challenge them, particularly elementary and middle school kids, I think these kids are exposed to way too much technology, in my opinion. The math, reading, a lot of the stuff is being done on laptops. I personally don't like that. They're still developing motor skills. Why is a 5th grader being given a calculator for middle school? I mean, I did all my algebra, pre-calculus, everything on paper. And I'm not that old. There were calculators in my time. So, you want to challenge them? That's a challenge. So, and forgive me, I forgot the gentleman right next to you from the board. No,
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry, forgive me. I forgot. Vito. When we had the Q&A session several weeks ago, you said something that caught my attention. Languages, foreign languages. This is about improving education. Things you can do with the budget, now that you have a referendum, you have money. You mentioned, or you proposed, the idea of exposing kids at an early age, not waiting until 7th grade. Maybe you can, try to expand these foreign languages into elementary school, not waiting until 7th grade. So now to the topic du jour. I'll be blunt. This idea is horrible. I'll just be blunt, and I'm sorry, and I know you don't part the homework. Quick comment on the statistics. You had a slide of Ann Hutch versus Greenville on the difference on scores. That's just an average, and we know averages can be manipulated in certain ways. I'm not saying you're doing that, but it depends on what data set goes into calculating that average. If you take the outliers out, those that do really well and those that do poorly, and you just look at the center, you should have a bell curve, basically. And I bet you that those numbers, the differences won't be so stark as you were showing on that slide. And on the topic of transportation, some of the fellow here stole my thunder on the traffic study, but I completely agree with you. Level service is gonna suck over here. I mean, we're gonna go from an E to an F. So I'm not sure the town of Eastchester, the highway division is looking into this, but they should be looking into this, the impact. It should be done a full traffic impact study on our network, on the street network. We're a suburb, even though we're close to the city, I mean, everything dumps on arterials like the Post Road. So it's gonna be a horrible nightmare just to get on Post Road. And the lady that spoke before me, I completely agree. If you're in Greenville or Unhatch, you can walk your kids now. If you have 1 year difference between those two kids, now you won't be able to walk them to school. So things that you need to consider. Thank you so much.
Hi there, my name is Erin Sweatman. I have 2 children in the district, a 2nd grader at Greenvale and a kindergartner at Waverly. I think the conversation at Coffee and Conversation was great last week, but what I think we talked a lot about during that conversation was the data. And what I would say tonight is that we saw a lot of numbers that were missing the correct context or the full picture. And I think that is still a huge issue, and we have not, what I have seen tonight does not do anything to connect the dots about what our academic achievement goals are. We saw those clearly at the end, but there was no data presented to say that this plan, this busing plan to bus children around the district and change schools, there was no data to show that that has a direct correlation to that 80% goal. So I think there needs to be a lot to underscore that connection. We've talked about a lot of tools in the toolkit. I think that's great. What I think we need to do, and I've asked this once, I've asked this twice, and I will keep asking it. I think first we have to be really clear on what we are solving for. We have to start with that, with some of the goals you've laid out, Dr. Valenti, so I think that's a good start. Having a goal of outcome, educational outcome improvement is wonderful. That is broad. What does that mean? How are we going to achieve it? The athletic director said, what is our why? How do we be more specific? Then, how do we look at the full suite of tools that you have at your disposal, and how do you look at them more thoughtfully? What has a lot of impact with little, or what has a lot of impact in driving educational change without significant disruption? We just brought in a number of new curriculums. What does that do to change those numbers? What other things can we be doing? How do we move teachers? How do we think about other things? I still think that we have jumped to a tactic, which is not a strategic, thoughtful process. So I continue to push this group to think about this from a data-driven, not a number-driven program. What I saw today was, if I looked at the numbers, what I saw today was one, some very confusing data that was inaccurate. So what we still haven't seen a view of is what is our current head count or student to teacher ratio today. We talked about equity with this plan. I believe we have equity today, so I'm unclear on how we're fixing that with this plan, right? I think we already have about 20 students. I don't know what we have actually, so that's a question. So that's the first piece. I haven't seen any connection between, what I also saw was a list of schools who have this plan, and I saw a list of the schools that have the best educational outcomes. There was very little overlap between those two lists. A significant amount of rigor. We have high expectations for our students. I have high expectations for our leadership and our board. So I look forward to seeing those delivered upon. I look forward for this community to be brought along, and I look forward to much more conversation in a timely, thoughtful process. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any board comments? Can I comment? Yes.
Okay, get ready. Eight.
I just want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. I know I recognize a lot of faces from last week's Greenvale Coffee and Conversations, and you know, as I shared with a lot of you last week, I have 2 children in Greenvale, and to be frank, I share all of your concerns, you know, and it wasn't that long ago where we were on that side, you know, voicing what we felt was a very passionate issue for our families. Sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. I also am from a household with 2 working parents, and everything that had happened during COVID, quite frankly, put us in a complete panic as well. So I understand, and I don't want anyone to think that we are minimizing this. We never, I mean, I'll say we, but I'm confident I can say that we never intended to be making this decision without the community input, because this is our decision, right? So to echo what Max said earlier, it's very important that, you know, you guys come out, and we're so happy to hear, you know, all of your feedback and to be taking the community surveys. You know, and of course also recognizing that we can speak on academics and what our goals are for that, but you know, we all know, especially after the last couple of years, that you know, if you don't have, you know, a happy household, that can affect a lot of other things, right? It can affect health and relationships and, you know, the outcomes that we're trying to achieve. So, you know, that's just a lot of, you know, the many things that we're weighing when we're making this decision. So, you know, I just want to thank you all, and, you know, for you just to understand that we're making this decision in partnership with you. And, you know, we want to hear your feedback, and, you know, I know it's not easy to come out here and give that, so, you know, we all thank you for that. You know, and if this plan does not go through, you know, we still recognize that, you know, this was just one way to work toward these goals, but there are many other ways that I'm sure that Dr. Valenti and the administration will continue to present to us. And, you know, in all of those cases, you know, we value your feedback, so thank you.
Okay. 9. 10.
Okay.
10. Hold on. A little more volume now. It's gonna go to 40. Yeah.
Again, I want to thank everyone who spoke this evening. I heard a lot of utterances from the heart. And I heard parents speaking to, not necessarily by the numbers and some of the data presented, but what the impact means in terms of the human. And I want to make 2 comments. Number one, this is an investigation, and we're looking at data. So in fairness, we want to give it sufficient time, not a lot of time, but sufficient time to be able to uncover what are some of the merits and some of the areas where it's not meritorious or not in the best interest. I think having that courageous conversation as a community is part of a healing process and is part of putting up front exactly what we believe are our convictions and what we want for our children. In The Little Prince, which I'm sure you all recall, we spoke about matters of the head and matters of the heart. And we're considering both. This is not strictly a data analysis. It ultimately will become not just a matter of the head, which must be present, we must be logical, we must be rational about what we do, but in the final analysis, we must speak with our heart. And so I'm very pleased that we've had this kind of a turnout and the comments that have been made. Again, this is not in cement, far from it. This is an investigation, and sometimes we don't like to hear all the parts of an investigation, but it's only part of the process. Why did I suggest January? For a very simple reason, that if this were to become a reality, it's going to drive our budget and academics in one direction. If this were not to become a reality, then it will drive our program in a different direction. I said from the beginning, this is a tool in the toolbox. There are several other tools. We discussed some of them tonight, and there are many others, okay? We've talked about that with faculty in a town hall I had today by Zoom. There's departmentalization that we may want to look at. There are the win period and drilling deeply in terms of servicing students at levels 1 and 2. So there are multiple tools that we can bring to the fore. This is one of them. We have to take a hard look at it. We have to finish the process. And I would say by next board meeting on December 13th, do come out again. I would like to have some transportation data for you and show you comparisons there. That has been an issue that has been raised. But again, from a matter of the head, not necessarily from a matter of the heart, okay? So I'm just giving you a little bit of a notion of bringing this to closure from my perspective in terms of doing a complete analysis and then letting a community and a board make the ultimate decision. So I just wanted to make those concluding comments, Madam President. I didn't want to engage in other conversation, but I did want to let you know where we're going as we look toward the future, okay? Direct your questions to the President.
Okay, get
This
ready.
is really a question and answer time. If you would like to email us your questions, you can do that.
Well, hold on. 2 years ago, I saw you screaming at the board with your questions. So give us an opportunity to do the same.
I think that's great to know that next week or next time we'll have busing information. I think what we should all receive is a list of what meeting will have what data point. You said that there's data. The data we've seen so far does nothing to demonstrate reorganization equals academic excellence. There's been nothing that shows that. So that is part of the story, and that is missing. So there has to be a plan for how you're getting from here to a decision point. What are the dates? What are the milestones? What does the discovery include? That is project management. That is not happening.
I said in the beginning of the meeting, so I'll just say it again. The survey is going to go out to the community in the next couple of weeks to see if you are interested in continuing to explore this.
We don't seem interested.
Right,
So
so
to
if
say you're telling we don't seem interested.
Hold on.
Please
Let
let
her
me finish.
speak. Let her speak.
So if it comes back, and I suspect that it probably will, that the community is not interested in exploring this, then we're not going to continue to explore it.
Okay, well, let's put
Okay.
all that down, right? Like the next
Right.
milestone is this. The decision point from there will be this,
Right, so what I'm saying is if the community was interested in exploring it further, then yes, we would do all those traffic studies and busing studies, but we haven't gotten there yet because we don't know if the community is going to be interested, and we need to do that survey first. So what I'm saying is that survey is coming in the next couple weeks, okay? Please be on the lookout for the survey. Give us your opinion, and then we'll take it from there. Let's take this one step at a time.
Has your legal counsel guided you on the steps through this process, including the voting requirements that the voters get to say? It's not a board decision alone. Read the regulations.
Also at this
Go on, no, let him finish, I wanna hear that one. Is it not?
Not totally accurate.
Make that statement, please, I want everyone to hear that
Not totally
statement.
accurate, sir. Sorry. Listening to the community is what the regulations require, and we're doing it. If a decision were to be made, and that's a huge if, this board reserves that authority under
No.
the law.
Read the statute.
So,
Read your
let's be
statute.
clear.
Read your statute.
Well, you cite the section of the law.
I will. It's go on your website. I posted it the other day. The statute provides a formal voter approval is required before reorganization order can be implemented. That's New York State statute quoted verbatim.
You're here.
So you could gum up the whole school district next year doing this.
We're not at traffic studies, and we're not at making those decisions. As I said, this is an investigation being done in good faith in order to look at some of the elements. And an investigation can be conducted in good faith, and then the decision with this survey, and we had talked about this survey from the very first meeting. We decided that this survey would go out to the community, a like-it style survey, strongly agree, strongly disagree, and then questions along the lines of, do you support continuing this investigation or not? If the community decides, as the president said, that, thank you, we've heard enough data, and we think that this data does not justify going forward, then that is it. But at least we confronted the issue. We did the investigation. We did our due diligence as administration and staff, and I think we learned from it.
So are you using that to justify the statute? Is that how you're getting around the statute?
Pardon me?
Is that how you're getting around the statute?
No, I'm not trying to get.
We're not getting
We're
around
not
it.
getting around it.
We don't go to referendum before we discuss it.
I agree with you, but
Right?
you're making a decision in January. How do you make the decision in January without a vote?
But because we make the decision to move forward, then we can go talk about notice and referendum and all those things. The point is, we're making decisions about planning based on, right, based on what we're gonna do here with, whether it's next year or never, or the future, or somewhere in between, right? But we can't even get there until we have that conversation. This was a presentation from the superintendent to the board about options and understanding that, and I'll reiterate, and you've heard me be devil advocate sort of before also, that to your point, we absolutely do need to take things like the transportation issue and all the things that you guys are bringing up as, here's why this is not right, and either address them or understand how to weigh that out with the positives. That's a big part of this. But you don't go to referendum and say, hey, public, do you want to go, right, do you want to do this without the information? We are doing the due diligence as best we can, right, with the information we're getting as best we can, with the plan to, by January, if we want to do it for next year, have, that's the next step. Now, because our meetings by law are subject to open meeting law, and we can't sit in the room and just talk about this and shoot breeze, right, and say, oh, let's, you know, what do you like, what do you don't like? You as the public are entitled to monitor our discussions about that. That's why you're here today. This is not a public, you know, this is not and I'm not saying it to dismiss you, to the speaker who brought that up. I value every one of your opinions, and I'm not sure where I stand on this, even though I was one of the ones who I had told this before. I've been on the board 9 of the last 10 years. I was one of the people who talked about this early on, years ago, about, hey, let's figure out if this makes sense, because you hear things, right? Grass is always greener on the other side, okay? So we need to do that due diligence. I agree 100%. I would love to see, you know, everyone's just, you know, picking a cherry off the top. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, I apologize, shut me up at the time. But, you know, picking a cherry pick off the top of the tree here, right? I think people are getting nervous about the busing. We've already expressed that the busing is a problem, and there's some problems regardless of this that have to be fixed. Because we shouldn't be having kids on the bus for 45 minutes or whatever, right? So that's a problem regardless. But there's also sort of an assumption that if we change change the structure of the school, that parents aren't going to be able to get from one school to the other, because you're looking at it as if all the school times are going to stay the same. And I'm sort of looking at it as, there's no way that that's realistic, because that wouldn't be acceptable to me either if that was a condition of moving forward. Right? So there's a lot of little details that we need to work through to even get there. Well, every little detail is as important as every big detail, and that's the point that I'm trying to make.
But
we gotta get there.
Fine, as somebody does this professionally, when you do these studies, particularly with the public, if you want success in that, right, you need to you set a scoping document, with a timeline, what will be investigated, and how that will be implemented. Long before you ever get to a decision or get an opinion, your opinion should never be made until all the data is in there. To your point, and that's great. Now, we've yet to see a timeline on how the data is collected. What surveys are done? Are you going out to the local businesses? Is this going to affect the 20 White Plains Road businesses? Does the busing have access? All those things are stated in a scoping document. Read the NEPA laws, there's clear statement. And then once you go through that, you process that, you normally have a public open forum for 30 days for review and comment, and then you issue it, and then from there you go to a vote.
And we're not there yet.
But you're saying you have to make a decision by January.
Of how to proceed.
Okay.
You know, and the decision may be that this year's not the year.
If I may, real quick,
Right?
if I may, real quick, when you go through this process, like the gentleman here is mentioning, you go through all this steps, you mentioned NEPA, like you build a new highway, you go through a PD&E study, you go through the public hearing, and you all, there's a timeline, there's a very discrete timeline when things happen, and that's what's missing here.
You need to get to a record of decision.
And exactly, so I completely agree with you, that's, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but it seems like we shouldn't from the hip here with this whole thing on how it's being presented. And I'll be blunt, I get.
I acknowledge and accept both that feedback, because that's certainly the best way to do things in that environment. I can't speak to that because I'm the receiver of the presentation, right? We ask for information, and we're receiving your information, and we're getting like steps ahead of ourselves because somehow the perception is that this is a done deal.
No, it sounded like that.
It sounded like that.
January.
I didn't say, no one on the board said that.
Well,
If there were a timeline, you'd get people less concerned about January and you could have a conversation. But there's no timeline for even, January is what's stuck in people's head in next year. So this is where a timeline becomes a valuable tool. The next step might very well be that there's not gonna be next steps until we do that. But nobody knows that, guys, so that's where you're getting all this concern. You have to put it out there. Here's our plan, here are the steps, here are the milestones. That's not here, right? You're creating some of this yourselves.
By doing that, you calm down the anxiety to people. They know, you bring out a timeline on when things are going to be presented, and you prepare for that. But it seems like, the first meeting, at least for me, it sounded like it was a rubber stamp decision.
Yep.
That's why we're here. Why are we here? Just to listen to class?
Again, I don't mean disrespect.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Do we have a motion to discuss? Okay, Christine, you have a second?